My wife cheated on me with our neighbor and stole $300, $0 from our joint account to fund their affair. Now she's suing me over the house I inherited and claiming I'm a toxic spouse I never recognized. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My wife Emily was supposed to be the love of my life. We'd been married for 8 years, and honestly most of those years felt like they were built on trust and shared dreams. But all that came crashing down in a way I never saw coming. The craziest part, it all started with a weird gut feeling. Something just didn't sit right anymore. Little things, you know. She'd be secretive about her phone, hide her texts, and suddenly she was working late more often than usual. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was stressed, maybe she was just busy with her career. She was a manager at a marketing firm, always on her phone, always busy, always working late. But then the signs started piling up. I noticed she was spending more money than usual, and not just on clothes or stuff for the house, things that could be explained away. No, I'm talking about random charges on our joint account, big ones like $10, $0 here, $15, $0 there. I asked her about it and she'd brush me off with some bullshit about investments, and trust me, I know what I'm doing. But I knew better. The way she avoided my eyes, the way she'd get defensive, it all felt wrong. One night I decided to check our bank account. I'd never done that before without her knowing. I always trusted her. But I was desperate for answers. I logged in and saw a transfer of $300, $0. Yeah, $300, $0 gone from our joint account. My stomach sank. I immediately called the bank, but they couldn't tell me who made the withdrawal. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I couldn't sleep that night, just lying in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole world was collapsing. The next day I started digging through her things. I found her phone hidden in her purse, and after snooping a little I saw texts from a guy named Jake. They were flirty, suggestive, and from what I could tell, they'd been texting for months. The way she talked about him, like he was her escape, made my blood boil. I found explicit photos she sent him, and I saw messages where she was planning to meet him that very weekend. It hit me like a punch in the stomach. She was cheating on me with our neighbor, Mark. I couldn't believe it. Mark, the guy who lives 2 doors down, always friendly, always joking around. I'd seen them talking before, but I never thought she'd actually sleep with him or steal that much money to fund an affair. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't just some fling. It was serious, and she was lying to my face the entire time. I felt betrayed, humiliated, furious. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? And the money, $300, gone just like that to fund her secret life. I was devastated, but I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let her get away with this. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying everything in my head. Her lies, her sneaky behavior, the way she'd look at Mark when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I was furious, but mostly I was hurt. How could she do this to me, to us? We had plans, dreams about buying that house we always wanted, about retiring someday, about growing old together. And here she was, sneaking around, stealing money and lying to my face. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath me, like I was living someone else's nightmare. The next morning I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for more evidence to fall into place. I needed to confront her immediately. I waited until she came home from work, trying to keep calm, but inside I was boiling. When she walked through the door, I blocked her path. "Emily," I said, voice trembling, "we need to talk. Now." She looked surprised, maybe even a little annoyed. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" she asked, brushing her hair back and giving me that fake innocent look. I was beyond patience at that point. "No, Emily, it's about the money, about the texts, about Mark, about everything," I said, my voice low but steady. Her face flickered with a brief flash of guilt, then she quickly masked it with her usual bitchy smirk. "Oh, come on, Ryan, you're overreacting. You always jump to conclusions," she snapped, crossing her arms. "You're just paranoid. I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and played her the messages I'd found. Her face went pale and she tried to snatch the phone away, but I held firm. "You've been lying to me for months, Emily. You've been screwing Mark, stealing our money, and now you're trying to act like I don't know anything." She let out a bitter laugh. "You've got it all wrong. Mark and I, that's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. And the money, I was investing in us, Ryan. You wouldn't understand. You're so clueless about the real world." Her voice was dripping with contempt, like I was some naive fool she could manipulate. I felt my blood pressure spike. How could she be so calm? So cold? I had never seen her like this. She was bitchy, dismissive, and totally unrepentant. I knew then that I was dealing with someone who'd been lying to me for a long time. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was her complete lack of remorse. She kept insisting that I was overreacting, that she loved me but needed an outlet, that I was just insecure. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I was done, that I needed space, and that I was going to look into everything. I left the house that afternoon feeling shattered, like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. I'd always thought we had a solid marriage, but now I saw her for what she really was: selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything for her own pleasure and greed. I was angry, yes, but mostly I was devastated. How do you recover from something like this? How do you even begin to trust again? The betrayal was so deep, so personal, that I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, and I found myself constantly checking our bank accounts, trying to piece together what else she might have hidden. The $300, $0 she took, what was she planning to do with it? Was Mark just a side thing, or was this a full-blown affair with financial backing? I started digging into her phone logs, her emails, anything I could find. The more I looked, the more I uncovered a web of lies that made me sick. I found out she'd been funneling money into a private account she kept hidden from me. I also discovered she'd been in contact with some shady characters, probably to cover her tracks or fund her trips to see Mark. It became clear she'd been planning this for months. I couldn't believe I was married to someone capable of lying so coldly, of betraying everything we built together. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for thinking she was the woman I loved. One day, I decided to go to the house while she was at work. I needed to see everything with my own eyes. I went through her closet, her purse, her computer, anything that might give me more clues. That's when I found the receipts from a luxury hotel downtown, paid for in cash. She'd been sneaking off to meet Mark there, probably for sex, definitely. For lies, the worst part. She'd also been draining our joint account to cover the expenses, making it look like she was just shopping or investing. At this point, I was furious. I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't let her keep playing me for a fool. But I also knew I needed to be strategic if I wanted to get her back or stop her from screwing me over even more. I started thinking about revenge, not just emotional but financial. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me, to know what it was like to be betrayed so thoroughly. I was sick of her lies and her bitchy attitude, always twisting things around, making me look like the bad guy. That night, I sat in my garage, drinking whiskey and plotting. I decided I'd cut her off completely. I'd go to the bank, freeze her accounts, and take back what's mine. I also wanted to make her regret ever crossing me. I knew she'd try to sue me over the house I inherited from my grandfather, claiming I was a toxic spouse, that I'd driven her to cheat. But I was ready. I'd prepared all the paperwork, had all the evidence of her infidelity and theft. I was going to fight her and I was going to win. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. The relief because I finally knew the truth, and the anger because I'd been blind for so long, trusting someone who clearly didn't deserve my trust. I'd always been the good guy, working hard, trying to make her happy, believing in us. And now I was left with a broken marriage, a stolen fortune, and a woman who thought she could just lie her way out of everything. But I wasn't going down without a fight. She made her choices, and I was going to make sure she paid for them. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I didn't want her to get away with any more lies or manipulation. First, I headed straight to the bank. I needed to freeze her accounts, get control of the money, and safeguard what was left. I brought all the paperwork I had, screenshots, texts, bank statements, and explained my case. The banker looked surprised but understood the urgency. Within a few hours, I had the accounts frozen and I was the only one with access. That was step one. While I was at it, I called a lawyer to start the legal process. I knew Emily was planning to sue me over the house, claiming I was a toxic spouse and trying to kick me out. That was her next move, to spin the story, make herself look innocent and get what she wanted. But I had evidence now, proof of her affair, the stolen money, her secret trips. I wanted to fight her, but I also wanted to make her pay for her betrayal. I also decided to install cameras around the house. Not because I wanted to spy on her, but because I needed proof of her sneaking around, of her lies. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she'd been planning this for months. She'd been sneaking out late, meeting Mark, draining our savings, and probably even hiding more secrets. I couldn't trust her anymore. My heart broke even more knowing how much I'd trusted her before. That afternoon, I confronted her again. I told her everything I had done, about freezing the accounts, hearing a lawyer, installing cameras. She was furious, of course, and tried to deny everything. She called me paranoid, accused me of trying to control her, and threw a fit. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You're insecure, Ryan. Mark and it's just sex, and I'm tired of pretending you're some perfect husband. You're toxic, not me." I looked her in the eyes and told her that I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore, that I knew the truth and I'd fight her in court. I also told her that I was going to take everything I could, our house, the inheritance, whatever she thought she could steal from me. I knew she was trying to spin the story, make me look bad, but I didn't care anymore. I'd do whatever it took to get justice. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted all at once. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I was so blind to her lies. I'd always been the good guy, working hard, providing, trusting her. And now I was left with a broken marriage, a mountain of lies, and a woman who thought she could just walk away scot-free. But I wasn't done fighting. Not yet. I had a lawyer, evidence, and a burning desire to make her regret what she'd done. I didn't want her to get away with this. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me, and I was determined to see it through. Over the next few weeks, things escalated quickly. I spent every spare moment gathering more evidence, talking to my lawyer, and planning my next moves. Emily, of course, was doing her best to spin everything her way, calling me jealous, accusing me of controlling her, claiming I was the toxic one in the marriage. She even went as far as filing a lawsuit to claim I was an unfit, abusive spouse, trying to take the house I inherited from my grandfather. She thought she could manipulate the courts, but I had all the proof: texts, bank statements, her secret communications with Mark. One day, I caught her red-handed trying to sneak out of the house with a suitcase. I had installed the cameras by then, and I saw her tiptoe past the living room clutching a bag. I confronted her immediately. She tried to deny it, but I played back the footage. Her face turned white. "You're crazy," she spat, but I knew better. This wasn't just about her affair. She was planning to run, to disappear with whatever she could steal. I told her she wasn't going anywhere, that I had everything documented and I was going to stop her before she made things worse. That was the moment I realized how far she was willing to go, trying to leave with our money, with her lies, with her secret life. I called the police to make sure she couldn't just walk out and vanish. They arrived and she was furious, screaming and crying, throwing around accusations about how I was trying to control her. Meanwhile, the legal battles kicked into high gear. My lawyer filed motions to freeze her assets, to protect the house, and to prevent her from selling or refinancing anything without my approval. I also filed for divorce, knowing that this marriage was beyond saving. I couldn't trust her anymore, and honestly, I didn't want to. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone who would betray me for money, sex, and some twisted sense of independence. The emotional toll was brutal. Every day felt like a roller coaster: anger, sadness, disbelief, and a strange sense of relief that I finally had proof and was taking control of the situation. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and betrayed again. But I also felt stronger knowing I was fighting back. The worst part, knowing that she thought she could just manipulate her way out of this, that she could lie and cheat and steal and somehow come out on top. As I sat in my lawyer's office, reviewing the latest filings, I realized that this wasn't just about the money or the house. It was about trust, something she had completely destroyed. I'd lost my wife, my partner, the person I thought I knew, but I was going to get justice. I was going to make her pay for what she'd done, and I was going to rebuild my life from the wreckage. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure: this betrayal had changed everything. And I wasn't going to let her win. The court hearings were a whirlwind. Emily showed up, trying her best to look the victim, crying, claiming I was controlling, manipulative, and that she was the real victim here. But I had everything laid out: her texts, the bank records, the video footage of her sneaking out. My lawyer hammered her on her lies, her theft, her affair with Mark. It was clear she'd been planning this all along, using the house and her supposed innocence as leverage. In the end, the judge saw through her act. The court awarded me full control of the house, dismissed her claims of toxicity, and ordered her to pay back the stolen money, plus damages for emotional distress. She screamed and stormed out of the courtroom, still trying to spin her story, but it was useless. The truth was out, and she couldn't deny it anymore. After the dust settled, I was left to pick up the pieces. I moved out of the house, took some time to reflect, and started rebuilding my life. I cut all ties with Emily. No contact, no regrets. The pain of betrayal still lingers, but I've learned some hard lessons. Trust is fragile, and betrayal cuts deeper than any wound. I realized I'd been naive, believing in the best in someone who was only out for herself. I've since started therapy, and it's helped me process what I went through. I also found a new job, one that I love, and I'm slowly rebuilding. A sense of stability. The house I inherited is now fully mine, paid off, and I've put it to good use. I don't regret standing up for myself, fighting back, and not letting her manipulate me anymore. Looking back, I wish I had seen the signs earlier, but I also know I can't change the past. What I can do is move forward, smarter and more cautious. I want to tell anyone out there going through something similar: trust your instincts. When things don't add up, don't ignore it. And don't let someone's lies define you. You're stronger than your betrayal, and you can come out on the other side. It's not easy, but surviving this mess has made me realize my worth. And honestly, I'm finally starting to believe I deserve better.